All right, we're going to give everybody just one more minute before we get started. So get settled in and we'll get started here shortly. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of ISPA's Reopening Town Hall Series. Believe it or not, this is our fourth town hall since we started a few weeks ago. So whether this is your first or your fourth, I want to welcome you all and thank you all for joining us. Today, our conversation is going to center around some amazing innovative ideas and revenue boosters that spas are putting into place now to drive traffic, more revenue as they're all now open. And so we have an amazing group of panelists here again with us today. All of our panelists representing spas that have been open for quite some time. So it's definitely boots on the ground, people experiencing live action right now. So we're thankful for all of them, and they'll introduce themselves here in a minute. Before we get into that, before they introduce themselves, we want to again express our appreciation to Hyper Ice and Well Products for their generous support of this town hall. Near the end of our time today, like we've done on the last three calls as well, stick around. We have some amazing products to give away at the end. So stay till the end and there'll be a screen that pops up that announces our winners. With that, I think we can go ahead and get started with our panel discussion. I'm thrilled to once again pass things over to my friend Patrick Huey, who really needs no introduction. And serve as our moderator today, and we're so happy to have him, and he'll go through some housekeeping items now. So take it away, Patrick.
Thank you so much, Garrett, and welcome back. Welcome back, and happy anniversary to you. I know you had a great little time in Florida, so congratulations on that. I also want to say a big thank you to our attendees who are here with us on Zoom, on Facebook Live, and who also watch us on YouTube. We do record, so we'll have this up on YouTube by tomorrow in case you have to pop out or you can't have a friend who couldn't make it today. Also want to say that we do bring in multiple opinions, multiple views, so that you have an opportunity to pull from someone who perhaps represents how your business operates. So we want to have a good discussion and a good wealth of ideas talked about here today. A few other things, please make sure you mute your computer so we can hear what our panelists have to say. We do have a chat feature, so please send us your questions. This works when you send us questions. We really want to hear from you guys, our members, our industry compatriots, of what you need to have answered today. And we do record. I did say that already. So finally, we're going to move on to our panelists, our wonderful panelists. Oh, we are in a webinar, so you can only see us. I'm sorry, it's just our faces for today. But we'll see your questions coming through. So I'm going to move on to our fantastic panelists who have some really wonderful things to share with us. And they're going to introduce themselves to you as they answer our questions. So Yvonne, I'm going to come to you first for our first question. So right now, our spa reopening strategies are filled with new initiatives and policies. So I'd love to hear from you by sharing one of your new efforts that has been a game changer for you and had a positive impact on your business.
Well, thank you very much, Patrick. So my name is Yvonne Smith. I'm Senior Director of Resort Experience here at Northern Quest Resort and Casino. So we're a tribally owned property in Washington State, and we've been open since May 5th. And so I appreciate that question a great deal. So we have a wonderful partner in Resort Suite. We use them for our booking engine and our point of sale. And one of the features that they have that we've used all along is their yielding feature. And when we were closed for the 7 weeks and then went to reopen, one of the things I realized right away was that we really needed to streamline operations. And one of the ways we could do that was by yielding services across the board. We used to do it just Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, our busiest times as a busy resort. And so now we've been doing that for the last 7 weeks. And so what I did is we took our highest profit margin services, which happen to be our signature services, and we have really wonderful partners with Feed-A-Mare, Farmhouse Fresh, Intraceuticals is another one. And so we worked really hard to make sure that that back bar was streamlined, those services are streamlined, and those were the only services that we were offering, or we have been offering right now. And I'll tell you, the benefit is not just that profit margin. The other thing that we realized is it allowed our therapists, when they came back into work, to have the ability to focus more on those new protocols for sanitization, for safety. And so it was a good decision all the way across the board, because it lowered the stress level in terms of, like, we're not doing hot stone right now. So nobody's trying to rush, you know, and clean hot stones or get the stones warm and heat them up. And right now we actually don't, we only have one of our attendants back, our lead is back. And so we have an all hands on deck policy right now. And so streamlining and yielding has made a tremendous difference. And so we just got our May P&L in. So we were short 4 days compared to last May. And we were at about 80% of revenue, which was outstanding because I only had half my team. So when it came to the EBITDA side of my financials, it was very, very strong. And my GM was
Yvonne, to follow up with you on that question. So when you say yield, that means that you picked a select group of treatments. They were your top revenue treatments, and that's what you focused on through this opening phase to help close that revenue gap that would have existed otherwise. Let me ask you, did you get any pushback from your guests in terms of paying premium pricing, or did you reduce pricing for those signature services?
So we did not do any price reductions at all. That's part of our philosophy anyway. We do not discount services. We do value added, so we might add something. All of our services include a glass of champagne or a glass of Washington white or red wine. And you know, there's other things we can do, but we don't discount at all. And then we also eliminated all express services. So the only time we offer an express is if there's a gap in service. So if there's a 30-minute gap, but even before we go to offering an express service, we'll work on upgrading the guests on either side of those gaps. So if somebody's at a 60-minute, getting them into a 75 or into a 100-minute service before we'll do that, but no discounting. And yep.
That's fabulous. Thank you, Yvonne. Shane, I would love to hear what's happening up in New York with you in terms of what great strategies and ideas you've launched since you've reopened.
So my name is Shane Bird, and I'm at the Turning Stone Resort and Casino, also Native American owned by the Oneida Nation. And we have 2 spas, and we actually opened Sauna, which is our larger of the 2, 2 weeks ago today. And really, I think our biggest game changer that we've had is just the use of technology. Granted, and I think I've mentioned this before to some people, that I was kind of a proponent of no technology in the spa. You know, it's a time to relax, and I've really had to kind of change my paradigm when it comes to technology and try to make it our friend. So intake forms, you know, where in the past I've always felt that it's a nice time for a therapist to connect. You know, pre-service, we've now gone to having a link on your confirmation email that pushes you directly to an intake form. So it's done in advance, so the therapist can see that, and there's that less, you know, there's less conversation that has to happen, you know, masked or unmasked, you know, and we're able to just kind of focus in on the service a little bit more. The other thing too is I went out and purchased just some inexpensive tablets for each treatment room, that the therapists are able to see their books, they're able to write from their room, be able to add add-ons, and even make, you know, retail suggestions and that sort of thing from their rooms, versus coming to a common dispensary where they're all sharing a communal computer to check their books. So technology, I think, has kind of been the biggest thing over the past couple of weeks that's helped us out.
That's fantastic. I do agree with you. I think as an industry, we sometimes have shied away from technology because we want to keep that experience pure between the guest and the therapist. But I think in the current environment, we have to sort of up our pace in terms of embracing those types of things. Something as simple as an online waiver form, which I think is a great piece. So thank you for sharing that. So Jamie, you're in Chicago there at Marriott Tricoci.
Yes.
Introduce yourself to us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Taylor, and I'm the spa director for Marriott Tricoci Salons and Spas. We have 13 locations in the Chicagoland market. So our game changer for us is right along with Shane on that technology piece. We've always had an app that we have used, but going and making that change to like not having cash in our salons and things like that, that app has definitely helped our guests. Our call time when we first announced we were opening May 29th, our call volume, the incredible amount of call volume that we had in our reservation center, our average call used to be 3 minutes. It went up to 9 minutes, just taking everybody through our standards and all of those things. So we had to start directing our team to our guests to our app so that we could be more effective and not having them wait for long times. And then changing our payment to where the guests could actually check out on their phone and not even have to go to the front desk, and the technicians and service providers being able to put the retail in, like Shane said, right there. They could literally like leave from their treatment room with their retail and all of that. So operationally, that's been a big change, and it's still a learning curve for sure, for not only our guests, but our staff members as well.
Thank you for that, Jamie. Shane, I'm going to come back to you on a question that came in from Patty Rook, and she wants to know how the online waiver works. Are you emailing it to the guest? Do they log into a different portal to fill it out? What is the functionality of getting that waiver to the guest?
So essentially with Book for Time, there's an automatic confirmation that goes out once you have booked your appointment. Within that confirmation email, there's now embedded a link that takes you directly to the guest intake form, which is actually a software that sits side by side with Book for Time, but it communicates directly to it. So when the providers, there's a little icon by the guest's name, the staff can go to it, click on that icon, and they get the guest intake information right there.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. I know many people have that question, so thank you for clarifying that. So Brennan, I know you've been all over the Southwest opening properties. Can you talk about some innovations you've seen at your properties that you've been working with?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Brennan Evans, and I'm the Vice President of Spa Operations for Trilogy Spa Holdings. We currently operate 11 spa locations across the country, and we're almost completely all open. We're about 9 right now, 8 or 9, I believe. So we are getting back to, just what is our new normal with all of our spa locations. I would echo really what you've heard. Technology's definitely been the focus for us when it comes to innovating and trying to streamline this experience for guests. One of the things that we've been able to do is really focus on the implementation of electronic forms for guest waivers and arrival, and then also for the RX card experience. We use Book for Time in some of our locations. They have a virtual shopping cart that is allowing us to load that up with the guest before the guest gets to retail, so we can kind of limit the contact exposure experience in that retail experience and streamline it for them. It also allows us to email that information to them and keep it on record for them for future reference. The other thing is we work with a company called Connect2 Concepts, and they also have a very similar kind of check-in arrival digital experience that then also allows us to put in, we've been able to reduce some manual tracking on the back end, kind of back of house functions with them, because they have checklists by location that has timing to it. So now that we are very stringent on how often do we clean this space, how often are we going into that area, we can track that, and then it will alert us, alert our management team if a form hasn't been completed in a certain amount of time. So we can stay very timely with our kind of the new normal of sanitation.
That's great. That's great. And a follow-up question for you there, Brennan. I know you talked about Book for Time and Connect to Concepts. Can you give any detailing on is there additional pricing for those types of online features that you have to budget for if you're going to go to that model? Sure.
They're both a little different in their structure. Book for Time is a module experience, so you buy into different modules with them. Connect2 is a virtual connection into a digital connection into your current system. So it's a monthly subscription service with them, and it comes with all features. Another great thing with Connect2 is it has, from my position in a corporate level, it has emergency injury on site. So if somebody is injured, if something happens on site, it's set up to alert different members of our corporate team so we can immediately engage with making sure we follow through properly.
Thank you for that. Thank you for following up on that for me. And Garrett, coming to you, tell us about the initiatives or new revenue drivers you've come up with for the spa there.
Sure. So I'm going to hit on a couple different things, but again, I'm Garrett Mersberger. I'm the Director of Sales, Marketing and Spa at Blue Harbor Resort in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and we've been open for about 4 weeks now. We've just done some real practical things that we've talked about on a few of the past calls. One, we're like Yvonne, we launched with no discounts. This was a big discussion for us. Do we want to have lower prices? Do we add a COVID fee? We decided let's just open and have no discounts, which has been amazing. Our ASR is up. It's covered any of the extra cleaning costs. I mean, we used to discount left, right, all the time in the past, and now we're just not. And it's been a great game changer for us, and hopefully kind of a thing to stay for a little while here. Two, it's maybe not a revenue driver, but it's a peace of mind driver as well as a expense reduction driver, and that is we're allowing our guests to go directly to the treatment rooms. And we didn't think a lot would do this, but almost all of them have been. They're going to the treatment room, changing in the treatment room, getting on the table, changing when they're done, and leaving, which has saved us in, you know, laundry, robes, towels, flip-flops, you name it. It's been a big expense saver for us from that standpoint. And then lastly, another, I'll call it a peace of mind and also maybe an expense saver for us, is we've allowed all of our staff to go basically on call so that they're not sitting in the break room for 3 hours with 10 people or whatever. If they don't have any services for a while, we allow them to leave. We've also instituted an hourly wage for our therapists because they're cleaning more. And this has allowed us to save money on that because they can leave, they're punching out, saving us money, as well as keeping them, you know, social distance and not all sitting in the same waiting room or break room. So kind of all over the board, not all revenue generators, but all driving bottom line growth.
Garrett, I have a follow-up question for you. It comes from Stevie White, and they would like to know, because guests are going straight into the treatment room, how much time are you giving them to get there, get set up, and get to the treatment room, be in the room, etc.? Are you having to expand the treatment window to accomplish that? How are you?
Yeah, so we've already expanded the time between treatments. We went from 10 minutes to 30 minutes just so that we have ample time for cleaning, and it's really not 30 minutes to clean. So if a guest arrives 10, 15 minutes early, typically that room's already been cleaned, sanitized, and ready. And so we're allowing the guests to go in at their leisure, letting them know that the therapist will come and knock, wash their hands, obviously, when they come in, and get the treatment going that way. We've also assigned 2 treatment rooms to all of our therapists so that they can still do back-to-backs and then, you know, have time to clean. So it's been, it's worked so far, and we haven't had any moments where a room wasn't ready. It's really worked out well.
Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit and go into amenities. I know this has been a hot topic on some of our other town halls, which amenities we're offering or not offering. But for you, Shane, can you talk about the amenities that you offer and how you've changed them, if you've changed them, and how you're communicating those changes to the guests and the feedback that you've gotten from guests on those changes?
Well, we decided to go ahead and open with our entire facility available to the guests. You know, but the 2 major caveats being that everyone is masked, staff and guests, and obviously that we're going to be maintaining, you know, social distancing, and we do that through occupancy of every specific area within our facility. In order to kind of police that, I do have what I'm calling our wellness attendant that now is in addition to our front desk people and our locker room attendants. But this individual is there to, first of all, assist with any other, you know, personal amenities that a guest may need, but also to make sure that people are masked and that we don't have more than, you know, a specific number of people in any given area. And then they always have a bottle and a rag with them, and they're always wiping things down and disinfecting. So we have tried, and with success so far, to have all of those facilities available to the guests. We allow them to come in 30 minutes before their service. So we've done away with the days of, you know, somebody arriving 2-3 hours before their service. They can arrive 30 minutes before they come in, and then really based on the occupancy that we have downstairs, if it's a slower day, you know, guests can stay around maybe a little bit longer. If it is a little bit more busy, we, you know, discreetly ask them to maybe head upstairs to the lounge, and they can sit upstairs at the garden lounge, or maybe go into the cafe or something like that. But as far as any communal sort of amenities, those are all gone. So our wellness attendant is there to offer Q-tips, hair dryers, curling irons, all of those things. You know, they hand them out, they take them back, they disinfect, and they're ready for use again.
Are you opening with your steam, sauna, plunge pools, or are those not operable at this time?
We do have those open, but again, very controlled as far as the amount of people that can go in. You know, we're fortunate enough to have large steam rooms and large saunas, but we're only allowing 2 people in at a time. You know, our larger hot tubs, again, 3 people at a time. And again, the underlying common denominator is distancing and masks. You know, that's really what we try to share with all the guests.
And I would assume thus far you have not had guests reject wearing the mask.
We've had some get a little squirrely, and we've definitely let them know that if they need to be that squirrely, then maybe it's time to leave. But we do it in a very spa-esque way.
Yes. Thank you, Shane. So Garrett, I want to circle back to you because your feedback has spurred some really good questions. We're going to go back and talk about how you're paying your therapists. I know you can't give numbers and that type of information, but are you paying hourly and commission, or are you doing one or the other in this new model?
We're doing both hourly and commissions. We pay a low hourly wage because we felt, and it's probably against the law, we felt we can't ask them to clean a treatment room and not pay them since they were commissioned employees. So we gave them an hourly wage. But like I said, we allow them to leave now and be on call. We give them an hour warning if someone books in so that they can get back quickly enough. And we haven't had any issues. Yet we are paying an hourly wage, but they're cleaning the rooms for us. If a spa attendant is able to, they'll get in there and clean it. But sometimes they're busy or can't do it, or they're cleaning other areas of the spa, and so the therapist is cleaning their treatment rooms themselves. So yeah, we are doing both.
That's perfect. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you, Garrett. Shane, I'm going to come back to you because in many places, steam and sauna have been left off the table. So a question coming through from Manya Lieberman is, how are you actually cleaning and sanitizing those steam areas?
So we do have our wellness attendant going through. We have our disinfectant that we're using. The other thing that we purchased, and we purchased it even as we saw this starting to happen the 1st of March, which was fortunate, was we have an electrostatic sprayer as well as multiple foggers that we use. So there's a lot of disinfectant, and that's always the fear. It's like, okay, we've gone from, you know, being clean as a spa industry, I feel, to now we're just laying this disinfectant everywhere, and what is that going to cause 2 or 3 months down the line? But so the attendant will go in, clean everything out, spray everything down, and then the next guest will go in.
And have you had to do any compensation changes for your associates, your employees in this time?
You know what? We really haven't at this point.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Jamie, I want to come to you because I know you are in a different type of model. You're not in a hotel setting per se. How are you handling your guest amenities? Are you offering them, or have you had to change them? And if so, what has been that response from your guests coming in for either hair services or spa service?
Yeah, for us, the state and Chicago itself had specific guidelines that we can only be at 50% capacity. So although we've been open almost 30 days, we're still at that 50% capacity. So with that, we had to make the decision that our steam room and a couple of our amenities such as that, we did need to close because we couldn't have the people or the guests in without, tied to a technician. So our steam room was one of the things that we definitely had to eliminate, as well as our beverage stations based on the state guidelines. So we ordered, little private label, little water bottles, and what we thought would have been, you know, there's no fruit in it and things like that. We thought we might have gotten some pushback from our guests. They're actually loving the little private water bottles, so maybe something that we continue with. And then the other thing we had to do was, because in the state of Illinois, the guest, if they're removing their mask now in end of phase 3, beginning of phase 4, our team has to be fully masked, but also in a face shield and or goggles. So we had to take the steam out of our facial treatments because our technicians and service providers were unable to handle the steam in the room with all the PPE that they were wearing. So we've made sure that we communicate that. We have what we call the know before you go, which goes out in our email communication when they're confirming the appointment, and also a part of those conversations with our guest service representatives when they're taking calls, explaining all those changes so the guest knows what to come into. And it's actually been super helpful, because then your frontline team, when the guest is coming in, is not saying, well, why isn't this happening? Or what do you mean I can't go to the steam room? So really being ahead of it was real important for us.
And Jamie, you've maintained your pricing, I would imagine, through this time.
Yes. Yeah, we our philosophy is we don't typically ever offer discounts. So our pricing has been maintained, and our team, especially on behalf of cut and color and waxing services, it's greater than Christmas. Like, they have seen, they're trying to catch times where they've got breaks, and we did extend our service times 15 minutes. And the team was super thankful because they have been so busy, extremely busy on that behalf.
That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And Brennan, I know you were just in Vegas, I believe, recently. Can you talk about the amenity situation there and the modifications there, and how that's being communicated to guests and how they've received it?
Sure. You know, it's different because we operate in different states. It's different everywhere for us. So, for example, in Las Vegas, we still have not received permission to open up full amenities. So steam, sauna, locker rooms, we're still waiting for approval to do that. So right now, similar to what Garrett was saying, we're in kind of a day spa experience where the guest is going back to the room, changing in the room, and then coming back out. We have implemented a couple of different offerings where we're doing individualized amenities, prepackaged individual amenities. So if somebody needs something, it's not sitting out on a counter somewhere. We're making it available to them, whether either it's placed in their locker or it's available upon request, similar to what Shane had mentioned. We are maybe the black sheep on this panel. We did discount our spa experience. And we had some logic behind why we did that. You know, we opened very early on in Scottsdale at the Fairmont Scottsdale Princess for Well and Being, and it was one of the first to open. So we opened with nothing offered. It was literally check in, go to the room, get your service, and come back out. So we had the logic behind that was that we don't have the full, let's say, $189 experience available for you. So we felt going into it a little bit of the unknown that we might get some pushback. I'm very glad that we limited the time frame on that because we got no pushback. People were just happy to be back in the space getting nurturing services. We didn't discount in the salon. I think everybody, you know, similar to what Jamie said, it was just, we were booked the minute we opened the phones for salon. So we didn't have to discount in the salon for any reason at all. We just thought for the spa, you're not going to get this full experience. And most of our spas are pretty opulent where you get a lot of these beautiful amenities and you want to spend the day and spend time. We did limit the time that you could arrive and check in. And then we also strongly suggested in our messaging for pre-arrival that you limit the time that you're in the spa afterwards. Subsequently, you know, in Scottsdale, that has all changed. All of the amenities are open except the steam room, and we're contemplating how we work that right now because we do want to get that back up and running. But all of our other amenity offerings, pool, co-ed jacuzzis, those things are all available to guests now. We did limit in the beginning beverage service, but we're starting to unfold that as we learn more about this virus and how, you know, surface contact is less of an issue than we thought in the very beginning. So we are starting to relax that a little bit. What we are doing is if we have amenities out, beverage service out, typically it's bottled water, it's no longer self-serve. And if we have things like coffee, it is in very limited quantities. So our team is constantly rotating through and checking in and refurbishing that space. So it doesn't look like it's mass consumption. A lot of it is perception right now. And we haven't had any pushback at all, quite frankly. You know, we looked at this discount as a very unique, once in a lifetime. I think we called it "This Never Happens." That was our campaign around it. So take advantage of it while you can, because it won't happen again. At least we hope not.
I mean, I think what you said, Brendan, is very key for all of us through this process, is that we're all going to be learning on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and we're going to have to adjust and shift our operations to that. I will say for Montage, we did not open with our wet amenities, and that was by design before we had received any state guidelines. And we determined at that point that we would still maintain our pricing, that what we wanted to keep the value of our services and the overall experience, which is primarily between that guest and that therapist in the treatment room. So we too, I think like Shane and Yvonne and Jamie, kept our pricing consistent with where it was pre-COVID. So thank you for that. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. I do see your questions coming through. If I can pepper them in, I will. Yvonne, I want to come to you because I know you also oversee retail for the entire resort, so you may have a broader picture of this. But on previous town halls, we've talked about the importance of retail and how retail has been a very robust part of our economic business. Can you talk about strategies that you put into place there to help drive retail, and if you're seeing the exact same scenario for your spas and for your non-spa retail areas also?
Well, our strategy across the resort is we're a 4-star, 4-diamond property, so we are not, you don't come to us if you want a discount, is I guess kind of our overall internal strategy when we talk about pricing. So I do oversee all of resort retail. So we do have a 13,000 square foot store that's kind of it's a Pacific Northwest lifestyle store. So it has home goods and outdoor goods, apparel, jewelry, some other very specific Pacific, that's interesting, right, to say that, but items, so jams, jellies, those kinds of things. But so what we did, I mean, we were in the same spot as a lot of people. We had a lot of retail coming in for spring, and then we typically in March and April, we would have done the discounting for anything left over from fall and winter. And so what we did and was very strategic. So in the spa and in our other big stores called Windfall, we didn't do any discounting, any sales in those departments. We had another location at the other end of the resort that had been vacant, and we moved any of that merchandise that would have been, you know, basically discounted in March and April to that store, and created a sale location and built a whole campaign around that. And also really kind of cleaned up our inventory very significantly. So it was a tremendous success. In 3 days, I think we did about $60,000, $70,000. And it was very streamlined, the whole operation. It only took 2 people. We held it 10 to 6 every day. And then what was really fabulous is we saw no fall off in the spa retail or in Windfall retail. And so in those locations, there wasn't any discounting. And we just found that our guests were very willing. We didn't even have anybody asking about discounting. It's also not who we are, so I don't think people really expect it from us. But we did have some of those inventory issues from being closed for, you know, almost 2 months. So we did have to put a strategy around liquidating that inventory and still creating, you know, a great resort experience for our guests. So the other thing I'm really fortunate about is the people who work in the stores, and then also my concierge team here in the spa. They're all amazing. And I have fabulous vendors who spend time every couple of months. I have a visit from Kristen, my rep with Feedamere. I have Chris Hughes with Salon Services is in all the time working with my team on Moroccan Oil and Seven and some of the other brands. So they know my product line very, very well. And that makes all the difference in the world. My providers, same thing. They understand the benefits of the products that we carry. And I'll tell you what, the one thing we really realized when we opened, because we were one of the very first in the nation, I think, but definitely the first in Washington State, is that people were desperate for not just the physical contact, but also the conversation about wellness. And, you know, they were ready for the wonderful masks and skin creams and eye creams and body care and nails. I mean, Dazzle Dry is another one of our great partners. And so we did fantastic with that. I mean, our nail and hair salon has never been busier. So it's been exciting.
I think that's great too. I think it's very smart for all of us to think about as we reopen, we're all going to come back to slow moving inventory. And oftentimes the trick has to be moving through it without having to write it off as a loss. And I think a smartly timed and planned sale is a very smart thing to do. And I think you hit it on the head, is really relying on our resource partners and our vendor partners to really help through those strategies. Even if it can be an incentive program for who most of a certain item or something like that. But I think it's very important that you took a very holistic view in terms of how you approached the retail side of it to help drive revenue and then reduce what's sitting on your balance sheet as well, which is very smart.
Well, without having any kind of negative effects to our brand as well, because that was extremely important. And I'll tell you, when you were talking about the brand partnership, one of the other things that we've done when we had a few things that were sitting on the shelf that we knew we needed to move through, we had new things coming in. So we've packaged them up with a service. So we created a pedicure that included one of the mini Dazzle Dry kits. You paid for the kit. It was an upgraded service. And so we just put the price of the kit into the service, and we added a very special champagne cocktail that went with it. And did I lose you? Oh, there. Anyway, we added a very special champagne cocktail that went with it. So it was a very special experience. But really my strategy, besides the fact that I want to delight people, is I needed to move through some inventory because I had new beautiful Dazzle Dry colors coming in. So it worked out beautiful. We sold through all of them in a week.
That's great. That's great. Shane, I know you've been open for some time too. How have you seen your retail sales, and what's your strategy been around the retail aspect of your business?
Well, and I think honestly, a lot of what we're doing is just, what Yvonne spoke about, really figuring out what you've got. You come back after 3 months and, not only do you have to dust it, but you have to figure out, what you still have and what may have come in. I mean, we had products that came in after we had shut down, that it hit our dock and that sort of thing. So a lot of it was just kind of merchandising, figuring out what we need to do and being able to understand how to do it without testers. How to do it in an environment where the guests aren't constantly manhandling everything that you have in your retail space, which has been interesting. So there's been a lot of signage. Again, the guests have had to step up. I mean, the staff have had to step up to really be there. So there's a lot more kind of one-on-one interaction around retail, which I think has kind of helped. So retail for us has been strong as well. One thing that obviously I didn't mention, but we did not start out of the gate with our facials. It's something that we were still kind of scratching our head about, on figuring out how to do the facials when everybody's masked. So we're easing into that. So I think once that happens, our retail will kind of go to the next level, when the SDs come on, because, they're the main drivers, they're the ones that are out there really, really putting it together. But a lot of what we've done is really what Yvonne has spoken to.
I have a question for you, and it's somewhat related to what you said about the training of the team around the retail. In a broader sense of the training, how much time were you taking in terms of training your team from the time they arrived to when you open the doors for your guests coming in? How much time did you take in training your?
It was interesting because it was kind of, we did it in stages, we did it in phases. So depending on like what your position was, everybody kind of broke off and we determined, how long it would take to get somebody up and running. Really, when it came down to the providers, the massage therapists specifically, we weren't changing any protocols. Really what it came down to is you're going to clean the room like you normally clean it, but this is how you're going to do it now. So that didn't really required, a half a day, really, for everybody to kind of understand what the dynamics were going to be on that. When it came to the front desk, there was a little bit more. The locker room especially was a little bit more because, they're dealing with the distancing and the occupancies and how do we have those difficult conversations with the guests to, tell them to put their mask back on, or maybe you need to come sit over here because there's too many of you over there. So those sorts of trainings took, a full day, day and a half, depending on the position. So it wasn't just a kind of a one cookie cutter kind of fits everybody. We definitely made the training specific to, what your role was within the spa.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. And Jamie, I know you're in a different model, so I love hearing from you on this as well, in terms of your strategy for approaching retail, and if you've seen it be a robust part of your revenue and your profit since you've opened.
Yeah, so retail for us was a definite big pivot for us during our closure time. We had planned on launching our e-commerce website towards the end of May, just previous to the whole closure. And we had planned on launching like our own, private product line on it. Well, when the closure happened, we pivoted, and we have an amazing team from our IT and marketing, and everyone put it together, and we launched an e-commerce site where then we were able to not only sell retail while we were closed and still generate some revenue, but able to entice our technicians and service providers with affiliate links and things like that so they could share on social media. So we had retail coming in all along from April 6th is when we actually launched our e-commerce site. So it was great. But we were still seeing when we did open our doors back up in the end of May, guests coming in and not just buying one of things, but they were buying 4 of things, like 4 hairsprays or 4 of different things. So we were seeing like volume buys from a lot of our guests, and then just taking the time to spend with your service providers and reminding them that how important retail and those at-home maintenance products are. And with us adding those 15 minutes to all those service times, we were able to make that, and just remind them, sanitation, we've always had great sanitation, like Shane said, it's nothing that was different, but it's really spending that time with the guests and on the recommendations and making that a part of their focus. And then putting together some internal contests, because we are in a role of trying not to discount anything, so that in those internal contests and getting the team back to where we were before, just regular daily operations, and putting that sense of competition in them is going to help.
Jamie, can you speak a little bit more about your online retailing? We're getting questions about how that's been set up, how it works for you. Can you just give us a window into that?
Sure. We worked with a company to help us set that up. We had it all in the making, so it wasn't like, boom, we just said, oh, we're going to start an online retail store. We had been working on it. It just accelerated quickly with Shopify. And then working with our great vendor partners, reaching out because we originally had not planned on putting other brands on except our own brand. So then going back to our partners and saying, can we even sell your product line online? We'd like to put it on, and really having great partnerships, being able to get, images and things like that all uploaded. And then, like I said, with those affiliate links, we're seeing sales. We're based in Chicago, and we were seeing sales from all over the United States, and a lot of it being our own product line, which, was Mario Tricocci, and based in Chicago. That was big for us to be able to say that product line was being sold across, all of our states. So that was exciting.
Jamie, does your e-commerce site connect to your SPA software, or do you run them as separate systems?
It runs as a separate system. It works through it does align with our website, which we're just still integrating all of that together. Our IT team is incredible about working to integrate it, but it does not go through our software right now.
Thank you for
But it does tie in, I guess. It pulls the sales in and things like that, so we can see if it was an online guest or an in-house guest. It does all filter in eventually.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'm going to come to you, Garrett, on a different question, because I think what's interesting, and it's kind of happened organically through this conversation, is what creative ways that people are coming up with ways to create revenue outside of retail, but what creative ways are people creating revenue within their properties and their spas. So one question from Daniel from Accor was, have you looked at, for your particular property, Garrett, using additional guest rooms that are being used right now in order to expand the footprint of the spa if you have that compression happening?
Yeah, so we haven't specifically looked at using hotel rooms, for example. We're a smaller spa, about 7 treatment rooms, so it would be advantageous for us to look at that. But what we've found is, so right now we're only open Thursday through Sunday. We're closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Again, because we've allowed our therapists to be more on call, they've opened up their schedules as well to beyond our spa hours. So if we get a bunch of requests for a Monday or even a late night 9 o'clock service on a Thursday, we've kind of expanded and allowed our therapists to have that freedom to be able to say yes to services outside of our normal operating hours, which has been really remarkable and incredible. The amount of demand that we're seeing outside of our normal, hours of operation, if you will. So that's how we've been able to generate some additional revenue, and our therapists have been loving it because they're obviously coming in for services. They're not coming in to just sit there and not have any clients. So it's been win-win from that standpoint. And I would suspect that as we continue to grow, and hopefully we'll continue to see this demand, we step to start looking at hotel rooms, because our hotel occupancy is still quite low. Definitely be something to look into.
Thank you. You froze a little bit there, Garrett. Yvonne, so I would love to hear what you're doing outside of retail for those creative revenue generating ideas. Have you looked at going into additional hotel rooms to perhaps expand the footprint of your spa, or what else are you looking at?
Sorry about that. So our spa is located on the first floor of our hotel. And so hotel rooms don't start until the third floor. So it would be difficult for us to do that. But really what I'm focusing on is average revenue per service. And so again, I'm so grateful to have an amazing concierge team that is really good at those enhancements that don't add time to the service. So right now we have also staggered services. So we used to be very uniform where everybody would start at 9:15, then 10:30, and we would be like that. And so now to create, to allow for social distancing, we stagger services. It's also nice for our team member break room because they're staggered as well, the time that they'll be in that break room. But really just focusing on that average revenue per service. There is in our hotel, so our hotel, because we are a casino property, I'm guessing we've been very, very busy, sold out most every weekend. But our room service still hasn't started. So we do expect it to start here pretty soon, but I did work with our food and beverage director. We added a refrigerator to our front dispense. We actually do have a spa dining room that room service used to be able to come from back of house directly into our spa dining. But we are now starting to do some of our own food service. And one of the things that I've wanted to do this for a long time because now my team makes commission off of the food service, and we pay considerably less doing it ourselves, and it's not in that huge volume, and there's no wait either. I mean, on a Saturday morning, if you ordered breakfast in the spa, it might be there in 20 minutes, but it might be there in an hour. And so we really love having control. It's a much smaller menu. Our food before coming from room service comes from Eastern Washington's only Four Diamond restaurant. So it's amazing. So don't get me wrong. We loved our restaurant partners. But this allows us to create some additional revenue. I'll tell you one other thing that was a surprise one. So we moved our spa desk, our front desk, out into our foyer. And then on the other side of the foyer is the entrance to the pool and the hot tub for the hotel guests. And so since we have that out there, we have our beverage service set up out there too. And now we're selling champagne and Washington wine to pool and hot tub guests all the time too. So that was kind of unexpected, but my margins are huge on that. So I'm excited.
We love those unexpected gifts, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Brennan, what are you seeing out there in terms of those creative ways of generating revenue in your spas?
Yeah, sure. We and again, it's unique with us. We're a third-party operator, so we're a little bit different everywhere we operate. But one of the things that we take a look at is that we do tend to operate in resort settings and luxury destinations, but we do typically also look very strongly at the local audience. And we found out, obviously, as I think everybody did, that the locals were the ones that came flooding back in because air travel is limited, group business is gone. So we really did look at how do we leverage third-party partnerships that we have historically used very successfully in the past, Travelzoo, Groupon. We immediately had campaigns ready to go with those partnerships very, very successfully. And I say successfully in the sense that we've been very astute at how to yield manage that experience to our advantage. It also does help us, honestly, with garnering new business, acquisition of new guests into our database. So that's been a positive that we're using to our advantage. The other thing that I was just blown away by was the partnership with, affiliation partnership with vendors. We reached out to say, hey, we're closed. We don't know when we're going to open, but we have guests that are in need. We would like to connect with them. Are you willing to create an affiliation program with us? And like I say, I was bowled away by the immediate, yes, we'd love to. We'd love to help you keep your guests stocked with product during this time. Naturopathica, Farmhouse Fresh. We're getting ready to launch a whole new partnership with Babor in one of our locations that's reopening. New Face has been great about creating these programs that then, upon request and great partnership, will continue on past post-COVID. So, we still respect the integrity of our guests in our database, but we can still give them a discount. And the partnership has worked very seamlessly and fluidly to that end. The other thing is pretty unique that we're looking at is, what is the new wellness recovery experience looking like, and immuno boosting, enhanced recovery. One of the things that we're looking at with our Vail property, the Well and Bean Spa in Vail, is an enhanced recovery body hacking experience where we're partnering with Hypervolt and Normatec to do these small add-ons that don't need a treatment room. Honestly, they can happen in an ancillary space. Actually, it's really cool. Hypervolt has a backpack full of things that the guests can check out, take to their room, work on it in their room, check it back in at the end of their stay, or keep it and buy it, and we're happy to charge you for that. So this body hacking, immuno boosting wellness is really top of mind for us as we start to look at what is the next phase of future programming.
That's great. That's great. Before we end, I'm going to ask each of you just to tell me very briefly. And I'll start with you, Shane. What surprised you when you reopened? You had all these plans, we had guidelines, documents, plan A, plan B, plan C. You opened the doors. What surprised you?
I mean, to be completely honest, I don't even know how to put it. The ferocity of people's views on what we're doing, the coronavirus. The views from masks to, you're not doing it enough. I had therapists convinced that I was calling them back to kill them, and really those were kind of the words they're using us. You're calling us back, and here we are, and you've seen how many people have died down in the city, and it's too soon. What just surprised me was how it was the emotional response, from both staff and then some of our guests as well, in the opposite direction. From the guests, it's been, this is made up and I can't believe you're making me wear a mask. So really you're sitting in the middle, and it's a no-win. No matter the planning gone into it, the precautions we've taken, there was nothing that we could do to really diffuse any of that, except be transparent and communicate as much as you can,
So I mean, you're saying that our job is really to mitigate passion on both sides and to sort of stay as centered as we can through the process. That's great.
As much as possible.
That's great. Jamie?
Yeah, for us, it was that emotional response from the guests. We're thanking them. We're so happy to have guests back into our spas and salons, and the outpouring from them, like, thank you for opening, all of that. Like, we spent more time, we don't know if we were thanking them more than them thanking us, but that was just like a huge, pleasant surprise. And then on the flip side, working, like Shane said, to get staff back for us, more so on our guest service representatives, were more of a challenge. It's almost like every August we go through that back to school time with those individuals, whether they're attendants and things like that, and it kind of hit early for us. So we're in that mode of focusing on hiring and just really maximizing on the great staff that we do have.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. Yvonne?
So same things that Shane and Jamie said, and then I will say that this isn't the surprise, this is the learning. We have some key words that we use, and one of them is evolution, that we're doing our best all the time to stay current with what's happening. And so I know somebody else had mentioned that too. So we opened one way, we've continued to evolve, and I stress with my team that being flexible and embracing that evolution are going to be key to our success. And we're really heavy into the scripting, so everybody knows what to say when you have a guest that's stressed out or you have a guest that has questions. And we all say, you know, for your safety, the safety of all of our guests, and for our entire team, you know, this, or, you know, we wear masks, we sanitize between each. And so just, you know, that communication piece, but just grateful to be in this industry, and just glad that people are showing up.
Thank you. We all are. We all are. Thank you. Thank you, Yvonne. Brennan.
Yeah, I would echo what everybody said. I would say a learning for us was definitely give your staff time in the space. If you haven't reopened, give them time in the space prior to just opening the door. You know, with each of our teams, we tried to have a full day of training, and then either a half or a full day of friends and family, bring people in, bring the staff back in, work on them, wear that mask, because it is different to wear a mask for 8 hours when you didn't have to do it before. What does it take to clean a room? What does it take to turn a room? What does all of this new stuff feel and look like physically experienced? And that we definitely were happy that we did that. The other thing I would say is that we also had most of our locations opened with at least a day closed, so you could just regroup. You could pull together and go, what did we learn? What did we experience? And how do we need to evolve, as Yvonne said?
That's great. That's great. So Garrett, I'm going to give you the final word, and then I'm going to let you wrap it up for us and thank
All right. All right. I would say our biggest wow or takeaway was how prepared we were actually to open. And I'm not just saying this because I wear an ISPA hat, but we utilized all of ISPA's tools, and it really propelled us to a successful opening, and we couldn't have done it without all of those tools. And so that was my biggest wow, is we were all scared, and yet we were so prepared, and we, knock on wood, have gone without any hiccups so far. So that would be my big takeaway. But I know we're up against time, so what an amazing day of discussion. Thank you to Patrick again for moderating, all of our panelists. You guys were wonderful. All those online who attended. It was just an awesome day. I want to again thank Well Products and Hyperice for their support of this edition of our ISPA Town Hall. You'll see, if you see your name on this screen here, you are a lucky winner, and someone from ISPA will reach out to you to let you know how you can get the prizes that you've won. Finally, in closing, just a reminder to everyone that we will continue to do these ISPA reopening town halls Wednesdays at 2 Eastern through at least July 8th. And new and exciting, we're going to do a special edition for California spas specifically.